You ever have one of those days where you finally sit down, nothing is technically on fire, nothing has to get done, and your body still feels like you're late for something, like you're relaxing but not relaxed? You're resting, but your nervous system is still standing in the doorway like, cool, but what are we forgetting right now? If you feel like I'm reading your mind, I promise it's not just you, okay? Because based on my comments section, a lot of us millennials aren't just tired. We're programmed and conditioned for urgency at a deep subconscious level. We became adults in a world where stability felt fragile, the goalposts kept moving, and hustle got marketed to us like the only responsible way to survive. So we learned to move fast. We kept moving, and we overfunctioned to stay on and treat stress like motivation and calm like something you earn later. And we've been sprinting for so long that our brains learn to equate safety with constant doing. So slowing down doesn't feel like relief. It can feel like danger. Like you're waiting on the other shoe to drop. Like if you stop moving, something bad will catch up to you. And if that's where you're at right now, I want to add a little bit of a layer of compassion here, okay? You're not failing at rest. Your nervous system is doing exactly what it was trained to do, okay? Because normally, after a stressful event, your body returns to baseline, rest and digest, homeostasis. But for a lot of millennials, our baseline has quietly become stress. Not only does peace feel risky and even suspicious because of the consistent chaos that's become our reality, not only does the quiet feel uncomfortable because our lives have been filled with constant noise, but even deeper than that, millennials have gotten so used to living our lives in survival mode that burnout and exhaustion has become our default. So that's what we're unpacking today. Welcome to the Millennial Reset. We're talking about healing over hustle and what it actually takes to slow down and simplify your life without blowing everything up. Okay, we're going to cover why hustle culture felt so seductive and what changed for us. We're going to talk about why slowing down can feel impossible when your brain is simply conditioned for stress. And yeah, I'm going to geek out on you a little bit here with some brain science, so buckle up. And then we're going to end today with some practical tools that teach your body that slow is safe, even inside a fast world. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Peter, your unofficial millennial mindset mentor and burnout bestie. And believe you me, okay, I'm still working on this every day. But I also wanted to provide a space for all the others in their messy middle to simply take a deep breath before figuring out what comes next for you. So for the next little bit, let's treat this episode like a nervous system water break. To just take a few deep breaths, understand what's really going on here, and find one simple thing that we can all do to create more balance and calm in a world that feels like it's an impossibility. So if you're craving a pace that feels human again, and you're ready to stop treating rest like something you have to earn, take a breath. This episode is your permission slip to simply consider what life might be like at a different pace. So let's get into it. Welcome to the Millennial Reset, a soft landing for your messy middle, a space for our generation to do the real work of unlearning and rebuilding, for the ones choosing rest over rush, peace over pressure, and alignment over achievement. Because the comeback and the reset isn't about becoming someone better. It's about remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. I'm glad you're here. All right, so how did we get here? Where our brains are hardwired for nonstop doing. Like, when did we transition from human beings to human doings? Okay, this wasn't like some conscious choice. Like, you know what sounds fun? Chronic overwhelm. No. This is way more subconscious. It goes back to conditioning and modeling and the environments that we grew up in. We inherited a lot of push-through programming. And then hustle culture showed up right as we entered adulthood and basically poured gasoline on it. Okay, and let me just say this right up front here, okay? Most of us didn't choose hustle culture because we were obsessed with being successful. We chose it because it felt like a path to safety. Okay, we've talked plenty about the hand that we were dealt. Instability, moving goalposts, do everything right and still struggle. But here's why it matters so much in this episode. Because when life doesn't feel stable, you start chasing anything that does feel stable. And hustle culture just happened to show up like a shiny little solution. Not just as a way to prove that we were working hard enough, but as a coping strategy. Because hustle culture promised three things that a lot of us were desperate for. Number one, safety and control. Okay, hustle wasn't just work hard, it was security, or at least the illusion of it. It told you if you just grind long enough, you'll be safe. And if you keep producing, you'll be secure. And if you stay busy, you'll stay ahead. And that message hits different when you grow up watching stability feel fragile, right? So we worked harder. We stayed later. We said yes. We over-delivered because it felt like something we could control when everything else felt unpredictable. The second thing that hustle culture provided for us was an identity, a ready-made identity, the hard worker, the reliable one, the one who can handle anything. And when you don't feel grounded internally, having an identity you can point to feels like something you can hold on to, even if it's quietly draining you. So, what started as I'll grind for a couple of years turned into, wait, this is my whole personality now. Because if you don't know who you are, at least you can be productive. So productive that you're too busy to have to figure out who you really are. And the third and final thing that hustle culture provided, and this one's a biggie, is dopamine. Hustle culture was built like a slot machine. You do something, you get a reward, a compliment, a gold star, a good job, maybe a raise if the universe is feeling generous. So your brain learns busy equals reward, and effort equals validation, and achievement equals relief. And once your brain gets hooked on that pattern, stillness doesn't feel restful. It can feel empty because you're not getting the hit. Hustle culture was a way to feel like we were staying ahead of the chaos. And it makes total sense why we bought in. The promise of hustle culture was work hard now and later you'll relax after you've earned it. But later never came. The goalposts moved. The work expanded. Technology erased boundaries. And going the extra mile became the baseline expectation. Hustle promised safety, but it trained our nervous system for urgency. And once your brain learns that urgency and speed equals safety, of course slowing down feels hard. Of course peace feels suspicious. Of course you can finally have a quiet moment and your mind goes, yeah, but what should we be doing right now? Because for years, urgency wasn't just how we worked, it became how we regulated. And that brings us to the next part here, right? Of why slowing down isn't just hard because we're busy, but because our brains have been trained to treat stress like motivation. So when the pace finally slows down, it's not just that we don't know what to do with the time, it's that our nervous system doesn't recognize the calm as safe. And again, compassion here, right? If you can't slow down right now, that doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you. It means that your body is doing threat detection like it's its full-time job. Because for a long time, it kind of had to. Okay, and here's where the brain science begins to make this make perfect sense. First thing I want you to understand here is your amygdala. Okay, it's basically your brain's smoke alarm. Your amygdala scans for danger. It's protective, not logical. Its job isn't to make you happy, it's to keep you alive. So if you've lived through years of instability, pressure, and chronic stress, your amygdala becomes more sensitive. Not because you're broken or have anything wrong with you, but because your brain adapted just like it's designed to do. So When you try to slow down, your amygdala doesn't go, oh, cute, self-care. It goes, wait, why are we stopping? What are we missing? And what's about to go wrong? You know, it's all jacked up on Mountain Dew. That's just one reason why calm can feel suspicious, because it's biological. Okay, second big component of your brain to understand in this sort of stress addiction is your RAS, or reticular activating system. It's like your brain's filter for what matters. Your RAS decides what you notice and what you ignore. And it takes cues from what you repeatedly focus on. So if you've spent years focused on deadlines, urgency, pressure, threat, what's next, what could go wrong, your brain starts filtering the world through that lens. It becomes more likely to notice problems than possibilities, more likely to notice what's urgent than what's meaningful. Even when everything is technically fine, your mind still scans for the next thing to fix, because your life experiences trained it that way. Okay, and then last but not least, there is the cortisol conditioning, where stress becomes a sort of new baseline. Okay, and I think most of us know this, but cortisol is your body's main stress hormone. And in small bursts, it's not bad. It's useful. It helps you wake up and focus and get shit done. But when stress becomes constant, your body starts treating high cortisol like normal. So you end up needing a certain level of pressure just to feel online. Your brain learns, oh, this is the state where we perform and get results. Even to the extent of, this is the state where we survive. It's like stress, the one thing we want so much to create less of in our lives, and yet we're also sort of addicted to it. So the pattern becomes, we don't start moving until we feel pressure. We don't feel motivated until we feel stressed, and we don't feel safe until we're on, which basically boils down to stress becomes the motivator. Not because we love it, but because it's familiar. And familiar to the brain often equals safe, which is why removing urgency can feel off and restless and guilty, like you should be doing something. Okay, that's the key takeaway here, right? Stress didn't just happen to us. It conditioned us. It literally wired our brains for where so many of us are today. But even what's been wired for decades can be rewired. Not overnight, not perfectly, but through small signals of safety repeated over time. So let's talk about what it means to retrain yourself that slowness is safe. If your brain learned to treat stress like the starting line, how do you teach it something different? How do you retrain your brain and reparent yourself to be able to sit with the present peace when and where it happens, whatever that might look like? Okay, here's the answer. Again, when we look at it from kind of like that brain mind science perspective, your brain got wired for urgency through repeated experiences, which means you rewire and reparent it in the same way. Not with one perfect morning routine or one perfect vacation, but with repetition, with small, safe experiences that teach your nervous system, nothing bad happens when I slow down. And I'm still safe when I pause. And I can be still and survive it. Right? The goal isn't to be calm 24/7. It's simpler than that. To stop treating slowness like danger. Okay, and here's your gentle reminder here before we get practical. If you can't slow down much right now, it doesn't mean you're failing. It might mean that your environment isn't safe enough yet, or that your workload isn't flexible enough, or you're in a season that requires more from you. So we're not going for perfection or to become some serene monk who never gets stressed. We're going for proof. Proof for your brain in tiny doses that your body can downshift. And we do that by giving the brain new evidence. Because your brain under stress does not respond to logic. It responds to experience, You can tell yourself, I'm safe all day, every day. But if your body only believes what you repeatedly live, right? This all goes back to that filtering system in your brain. Your brain needs evidence built up over time that regulation is safe. So here are a few practical ways to start giving yourself that evidence. Number one, slow the moment, not your whole life, right? A lot of people hear slow down and they instantly panic because they imagine quitting their job and moving to a cabin. That's not what we're doing here. We're doing micro slowness because your nervous system can learn safety in 30 seconds. So here's what it looks like in practicality, okay? Pick one transition in your day and slow it down on purpose. Just one. Before you open your laptop in the morning for work, right? After you park the car when you get back home. Maybe it's before you respond to a message, whether that be from a toxic coworker or a relative, right? Whatever it may be, before your first sip of coffee. And for those 20 to maybe 60 seconds max, do one thing. Unclench your jaw. Drop your shoulders. Exhale longer than you inhale. Look around the room and remind your body, I'm here. It's now. I'm okay. That's you reparenting your nervous system. Teaching it slowing down is allowed and safe in a way that doesn't feel overwhelming. Okay, number two, create safe stillness experiences. Okay, if stillness currently feels like you're falling behind, you don't want to jump into a 20-minute meditation. That can backfire because your body doesn't trust it yet. Instead, build a tiny container that your brain can tolerate. Okay, it's about intentional boredness and slowness. Walk without a podcast. Walk at half the speed you normally do to provide that much needed evidence to your brain that the world will not come crashing down if you slow down. Okay, sit with an iced coffee and nothing else. Couple of examples here, right? 1 minute of staring out a window while deep breathing. 1 minute of sitting and naming 3 sensations in your body. Okay, for me, this looked like challenging myself on my daily walks to walk just a little slower than I normally would. At first, my body acted like we were about to miss a flight. I would last about half a block before my body was screaming to go faster. Then I'd work my way up to a couple blocks at a slower pace. Simply walking at half the pace that I was used to was so uncomfortable, but I could see it working over time, giving my brain some much needed evidence that slowing down wouldn't result in a 5-alarm fire. The point here isn't to feel peaceful. The point is to teach your brain that I can be still, I can move slow, and nothing bad happens. Again, it's the evidence that your brain desperately needs that slowing down, even if it's within your existing everyday life, is safe. Okay, number 3 here is to retrain that RAS to notice safety, not just urgency. Because again, your RAS filters what you notice based on what you've practiced noticing. So if you've trained it to scan for pressure, problems, and stress, you can retrain it to scan for safety. And here's your simple reparenting prompt. At the end of your day, ask, where did I experience safety today? Not accomplishment, not productivity, safety. And it can be small. A calm conversation, sunlight on your face, eating without rushing. One moment that you didn't abandon yourself. And this again tells your brain safety does exist in slowness. And what you consistently notice, your brain starts to prioritize. And if you can't find that one thing, ask a simpler question. Am I safe enough in this moment? Safe enough to take one breath, one pause, one tiny break, one small habit that allows your brain to realize that you can slow down, even if it's just for this next moment. Okay, and again, workplace caveat here I think is important. What if work isn't conducive to slowing down? Because let's be real, some workplaces are not designed for nervous system health. They reward urgency, they glorify speed, they expect constant availability. So if you can't fully slow down at work, completely understandable. Instead, let's aim for pace protection and peace protection. Okay, small ways to reduce urgency without risking losing your job. That could look like a single task for 10 minutes before checking messages. That could be batch notifications where you check Slack and email at set times. Maybe it's adding a pause before replies, like, got it, and I'll circle back around by XYZ. Take the micro reset between meetings or between rounds of burnout. And oh my goodness, take your PTO like it's a medical necessity, because honestly, sometimes it is. Even if the environment is fast, you can still send your body tiny signals that slowing down is possible. And then use your off hours as your nervous system classroom, where you practice those habits of slowing the moment, creating slow, safe experiences, and retraining your RAS. Because your brain needs consistency over perfection. Bottom line, slowing down is a nervous system skill. And like any skill, it's built with repetition. You're not trying to become a different person. You're reparenting the part of you that learned that speed keeps me safe. And you're teaching it something new. That stillness is safe. Slowness is allowed. And I don't have to earn peace. And once your body starts believing that, you don't have to force your life to slow down. It starts to happen naturally. And that's when you start living life at your own pace. And at first, the changes are subtle. Okay, they're not going to show up as fireworks. They show up as space. Future you isn't perfectly healed. Future you still has responsibilities, but future you has something you've been missing. Capacity. Where you wake up and don't reach for your phone like you're defusing a bomb. You breathe first. You feel your body before your inbox. You move through the day with fewer spikes, fewer I'm behind spirals, and you realize how much energy you use to spend bracing for someone to be disappointed, bracing for another fire drill, bracing for the next thing to go wrong. And one day you notice you're not bracing as much. You're just here. And when you're here, living in the present again, you get parts of yourself back. Your creativity, your humor, your intuition, your ability to think past the next deadline. You stop measuring your life by how much you can handle, and you start measuring it by how present you are inside it. That, my friends, is healing over hustle. Not doing nothing, not giving up, not shrinking your goals, but building a life that doesn't require self-abandonment to achieve it. And once you get a taste of that, you won't want to go back, because you realize the real definition of success isn't how impressive your LinkedIn profile is. It's peace. It's aliveness. It's you. So if you take nothing else from this episode, let it be this. Slowing down requires reprogramming. And if you're still deep in hustle mode, this might feel impossible. That's okay. It's not a moral failing. It's conditioning. Your brain will try to convince you that urgency is responsibility, that rest is laziness, that slowing down is falling behind. But that's not the truth. That's programming. And what's programmed can be reprogrammed. Okay, let's be real. As millennials, we put the fuel on the fire with hustle culture because we bought into it at the time. But we can also be the ones to put the dumpster fire out. One pause at a time, one boundary, one tiny moment where you choose yourself instead of the old default at a time. It's about building a foundation that can actually hold the life you're trying to create. You don't have to overhaul your entire life this week. Just start giving your body and brain new evidence. So tonight or tomorrow or the next time that you feel that urgency spike, take one breath, drop your shoulders, and remind yourself, I'm allowed to move at a human pace. That's part of the new playbook we're writing out here. Okay, and by the way, if you're looking for more support with this whole idea of slowing down, be sure to check out my book on Amazon or most major retailers online. When Adulting Feels Insulting, a self-help guide for burnt out millennials. I'll be sure to link it in the podcast description down here. But in the meantime, I'm proud of you for being here. You're doing great. Take a deep breath, and I'll see you in the next one.